maybe you can break into the neighboring storage units to draw the mice away from your car.
Yes, exactly right. One of our biggest claims at Hagerty is people pulling out of their car and they drive down their driveway and across into the neighbor's lawn.
You backed out with the trickle charger hooked up. There's a fire hazard.
Yeah.
That's a bad spring.
It's a very bad spring.
The cold winter months are nearly here. If you own a classic car or truck and live in an area that gets snow, ice, and slushy slop, it's probably time to think about putting your baby to bed for the season. And up next, we've got an expert that will share everything you need to know to properly store your vehicle so there are no surprises when spring rolls around. But I thought spring rolls were always round. Now I'm hungry. So to walk us through the ins and outs of proper wintertime vehicle storage, I am joined by Bryant Kolle from Hagerty. And welcome to the channel, Bryant.
Hey, Craig, thanks for having me. This is going to be a fun conversation.
I think it will be. But before we get into any of the meat and potatoes of this show, where are you and what's in the background there?
Yeah, I'm at the Hagerty Learning Garage here at our headquarters in Traverse City, Michigan. And we've got several cars in the background, but the one right over my shoulder is a 2006 Corvette. And this is a learning garage where we have our employees come and they can check out cars and drive cars. We have partners come, we have car clubs here, and then we invite the community to also participate, and we have open houses. And so it's a multifaceted garage headed up here in our headquarters in Michigan. So if you're ever in Traverse City, we'd love to host you sometime at our garage. It's an awesome facility, and we have cars from basically the 1800 when the first cars ever made, all the way up to brand new things like you see over my shoulder. There's a Porsche behind me as well. So we try to really have the entire spectrum of the hobby represented here in our garage, because the hobby is a spectrum. It's all kinds of people love different cars, right? So
exactly. And that's fantastic that you've got those vehicles there as well, because that represents what you do at the core of your business. That's what it's all about, right?
Yes. Yep. Enjoying your passion asset, whatever it might be, right?
So what do you do at Hagerty specifically, and why are you qualified to talk about vehicle storage?
Yeah, so I'm 20 years in January at Hagerty. I've done a lot of different things. I started in claims. I did claims for 5 years. That was an incredible experience. I got to go over to England and work on an F1 McLaren, so that was fun. Then I did motorsports and learned our motorsports program. And now I oversee our national sales team and our insurance partners team. And what makes me qualified is I've been living in Michigan my entire life. So 43 years of putting cars away in the winter for storage. Knock on wood, I have not had a problem ever. And so hopefully this winter is the same, but I'm here to just share like what I personally do. And then I get to travel and experience, opportunities with the Porsche Club, others. So I've heard best practices from literally thousands of people that put their cars away for storage. So I don't know. I think that makes me maybe a tiny bit informed on the subject.
Definitely. And, I've got a couple classic cars myself, but I guess maybe you could call it one and a half. I've got a 1936 Ford V8 sedan that I completely restored a number of years ago. And then because I didn't learn my lesson the first time, I'm also working on a 51 Ford. It's called a Crestliner, which is sort of a fancier two-door sedan. And I'm hoping to get the paint done on that before the cold weather really sets in. It's going to be tight, but I think I can get it done here before winter comes. But anyway, we've got a ton of questions about wintertime vehicle storage. We put the word out to countless vertical scope forums, and a lot of users responded rather enthusiastically to the call. So they submitted a whole bunch of questions for you, Bryant. But really quick, before we get to those, why should I prep my car for storage? What's wrong with just taking my 36 Ford, parking it, and then forgetting about it until like May?
Yeah, I think you could do that. That is an option, but it's probably a bad option. I think if you're looking to make sure that car is going to run good in the spring and you don't get surprises like mold and problems that you're not really thinking about, you should prep a little bit. And I think there's a spectrum of prep, but we're going to talk about practical prep. And I think the spectrum can get extremes on both sides, but just small things. We're not talking like a lot of time, but I think prepping now in the fall will make your springtime drive that much more enjoyable. And you're not going to be surprised with some unexpected problems.
Anyway, let's get on to the questions. And the first one here is kind of a two-parter. It's from Apina Triple H from allpar.com. This person asks, what's the one thing most people forget to do that causes the biggest problem in the spring? And then they follow that up with, what if they drive their car once or twice when there's salt on the roads? What do you recommend afterwards?
Yeah, I'd say the one thing that people forget to do is make sure that you have a plan for your battery. I think that one's pretty simple and straightforward, but even I sometimes forget. You do everything else, and then you're like, wait a minute, like what's the plan for my battery? Because if you just let it sit all winter, like that's okay, but you're gonna have a dead battery in the spring for sure. And so I think that's one easy, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, Craig. And then if you drive it on the salt, like shame on you. No, I'm just kidding. Just try to give it a good undercarriage spray before you put it away. Try to get it dry. Try not to put it away wet. I've been guilty of this before, but usually, just try to get it some fresh water in there and get that salt away, because you do not want that sitting on the undercarriage all winter. Obviously, if you can take it, and do a thorough undercarriage wash, but if you're driving it in the winter with salt, like you're gonna have a hard time getting all of that off. But do your best, and don't go crazy. Yeah. It's not gonna kill it, but it's definitely not good for it.
Yeah, that salt almost seems to creep and get everywhere over time. How do you recommend, doing that sort of undercarriage cleaning? Do you take it to a drive-through car wash, or is there some hardware that you've got in your toolkit that you use? What do you do there?
I think it depends on what you have in your garage. So obviously, I have a lift in my garage, and it's easy. You just put the car up on the lift, and you give it a good spray, some good soap, and get it all off. I'm assuming most listeners probably don't have a lift in their garage. And so you could take it to one of those soft car washes. I don't like automatic car washes. So unfortunately, what I would do is I'd put your snowmobile suit on, take it there, take it in your driveway, and get under there with a hose and really rinse it off. One of those long extension, I don't like it on the paint, but underneath, like a long extension car brush for like a motorhome or something. And just try to get as much of that off there as possible. But you're going to probably have to get wet. You're probably going to have to a little bit grimy. But that's honestly the only way to get it off. And I don't like taking it to one of those automatic which shoots up underneath. That just really scares me with the swirl marks you're going to get on your paint. So I think it's a snowmobile suit or a tarp or a blanket.
A dry suit, maybe.
Yeah, a dry suit, a scuba suit, whatever like you kind of use for an oil change. You're going to have to get as involved as kind of like getting underneath like an oil change. So.
Yeah, well, a little prevention goes a long way. Next question, we've got Tripwire from CadillacForums.com. This person asks, how to keep critters at bay, and are dryer sheets good? I'm sure they're good in the dryer, but to keep mice and stuff a bit, what do you think?
Yeah, this is interesting. I get a lot. So I've not had any mice problems. So I'll just say what I do. So dryer sheets, I think, are good. I've used those for years. Last year I upgraded, and I actually got a little visual here. It's the Grandpa Gus's mouse repellent pouches. And I upgraded to these last year on a recommendation from the local Porsche club. And they actually smell very good. And what I did last year is I put them around any openings into the car. So I did a couple of the engine compartment, one on the engine block. I did actually 2 in the interior. I put them right where the door walls and the door openings are. And then I put them around like the garage door openings, like if you have doors or where the garage doors are. And I did not see a single mouse dropping all winter. In the past, I've done the dryer sheets. I saw mouse droppings. Lucky I've never had mouse damage. I'm not a fan of putting mouse traps out with bait because I feel like that pulls mice into your garage and you don't want that. But then there's just like common sense things. Like I had some firewood in my garage one winter. I left bird seed in my garage. Like, don't do that. That's a terrible idea. That's going to attract things in too. So I think, the space surrounding the car, if you can, get it clean of any clutter, any mess. You don't want any spots where that's a really good mouse house. And then otherwise, I think, I'm going with these Grandpa Gus's again. And there's other ones. I'm not saying it's that brand, but there's other ones that I think are really kind of newer that I would try over dryer sheets. And I had really good success last winter with it.
And that's like a pine, or I think I've seen that product before, like a balsam wood chip, right?
Yeah, this one is mint and cinnamon. So like I said, it actually smells really good. Like in the spring when you open up your car, you're like, ooh, that smells good actually.
Nice and fresh, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's really easy. So I would say getting something like this, dryer sheets, I'm not sure. I've used no problems, but I definitely saw mouse droppings around the car. This stuff, the mice supposedly really hate. And last winter, if you take it as one sample, 0 mouse droppings for the first time ever. So
that's pretty good evidence right there. So grab a mouse repellent product like that one. Next up, enc.jsy@bimmerfest.com. They say no access to storage facilities. Are car bubbles any use? I am about 2 miles from the coast. So first of all, what is a car bubble? And second of all, what does it do?
Yeah, so car bubbles are, I'd say, fairly new. So car bubble is the idea. It's kind of like, if you ever see those packages you can put into your luggage and you can like shrink wrap your clothes. This is the opposite idea. You kind of like put air into it and it blows up around your car and it's supposed to keep dust away. I've actually seen, I haven't done a lot of studies on this. I know we're not talking about this specifically, but I've seen people try to use this for flood protection if there's a hurricane coming. The only problem with that, what I've seen is like if it gets punctured by debris, you're done. But so these bubbles are like these giant airbags you put around your car and you blow air into it and it inflates up around it. I think in theory it makes sense. My only negative around it, when I've heard from some people that have used them, is it's plastic, right? And you have air in there, but if you get any moisture, or if you put away the car with any moisture, or the concrete underneath your car actually, is breathing and there's moisture coming up underneath of it, mold problems. You don't want your car to be surrounded by plastic, even if there's air around it. So I would say from my experience talking to people, I don't like the idea of using it for long term. For short term, or it's better than nothing if there's a hurricane coming. But I'd rather move your car,
take your chances.
Yeah, put a cloth on it that's not or a cover that's cloth or breathable. I don't like putting it underneath the bubble for 6 months or 4 months. So
yeah, a follow up to that, I've heard some people put plastic on the ground underneath their vehicles. Is that a thing that'll help you at all?
Yeah, yes, I do that as well. I thought the same thing. I used to own a 2007 Pontiac Solstice, and it was brand new. I only had like 700 miles on it. And it was one of my favorite cars because I graduated college in 2005. And I remember seeing it at the Detroit Auto Show, and I always wanted one. And so this car was brand new. Like literally, I installed most of the antennas and things. And after like 5 winters, I saw some rust on the undercarriage. I mean, it's a surface rust. We're not talking like crazy panel rust. But I was, where is this coming from? And then talking to some local dealerships and mechanics that store cars, they're like, it's from the concrete. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, unless you got epoxy sealant on your garage floor, like we do here, it's hard to see, but this is sealed. The concrete actually breathes up moisture into your garage. And so, yeah, I do that. I just put a painter's tarp down, drive my car under it. It takes 5 seconds. It's not like a big thing. And I've not had that problem of moisture getting up underneath my cars anymore.
Duckman, I think I'm saying that right, from JaguarForum.com. Question here is really if you should use a trickle charger. Is there a fire risk? Maybe you can recommend one that's good quality. And then this person goes on to comment that they heard about like some Rolls Royces or something that got burned to the ground because a battery exploded or something. So trickle chargers, yes or no? If yes, what's a good one?
Yeah, I use trickle chargers on my cars. I want to prolong the battery. And then occasionally in February, we get really nice weather here in Michigan. There's been a rain, there's no salt. Yeah. You can take your car out and now have to worry about it. The brand I like is C-Tech. I brought one here with me. It's a very simple, shows you on the front how charged the battery is. It's a maintainer. So I think you want to make sure that you're not using a battery, quote unquote, charger. You want a battery maintainer, right? And I think they're really good. I don't think there's a huge fire hazard if you do it correctly. I think where people get into trouble with fire hazards is their battery doesn't have enough water in it. And when you put one of these on and it juices it, a little slowly throughout the winter, if you don't have enough water, that is a problem. But it's not the trickle charger's fault. It's actually the battery, maintenance fault. And I actually handled a claim on one of these a while ago. It was on a Carrera GT, and the client had bought it. He had never driven the car. He just kind of drove. He pretended to drive it in his garage. He was revving it up, and for 5 years he did this. Never put a single mile on it, and then his battery exploded because he forgot to put water in his battery. So again, $1.99 gallon of water makes a big deal. And that
distilled water.
Distilled
Very
water,
important.
yes, distilled water. So I would recommend them. Make sure that your battery is topped off with water, and I think it saves the life of your battery, and also you can drive it whenever you want in the spring. Don't have to worry about recharging the battery.
I have not used a trickle charger on my 36 yet, but I'm always pulling it in and out of the garage to get access to something else. So I think that keeps the battery juiced up a little bit there. I haven't had any problems, knock on wood. Moving along then, Yvonne at lotustalk.com just asks, any tire tips? Pretty simple question.
Yeah. So what I do and what I've seen a lot of people do, obviously overinflate your tire by about 5 to 10 PSI. I put them on cardboard as well. So I just save up some Amazon packages in the fall. I put those down in the 4 tires, and then I drive up onto the cardboard, overinflate by 5 to 10 PSI, and I've never had a dead spot ever in my tires. And obviously it's a good time to inspect them too, dry rot, things like that. Just a PSA, one of my cars in my garage is a 97 Trans Am. When I got that from my aunt after she passed away, as a family heirloom for me, they had the original tires on it. My uncle was they only have, 3,500 miles on them. I'm like, they're 30 years old.
Yeah, no,
right?
No. You don't want that.
Yeah, just make sure your tires are you're not doing mileage, you're doing years on your tires, right?
Correct. There's a little date code on the side. I think they only let you run them for 10 years, or you're only supposed to run them for about 10 years and then replace them. But next up, we've got Rich T from stevesnovasite.com. This guy's asking, should I change my oil before I store it for winter or after I take it out in the spring? I also fill the gas tank and add sea foam. Is this good or a waste of time and money?
Yeah, these are great questions. I'm always a fan of changing the oil in the fall and getting all of that contaminant out. If there's any moisture, anything like that, I think is a great time to change your oil, almost your last drive. Put new oil in there, let it sit all winter with fresh oil, rather than let it sit all winter with any contaminants. So I highly recommend that. For gas, I specifically think there's 2 things. It depends what kind of fuel you're using. I try to go ethanol free, but sometimes you're out on drives and you get stuck with ethanol. So I have this ethanol shield that I put in at the end of the year if I've used, regular gas throughout the summer. And then just like any kind of stabilizer, this is fuel treatment that I use, like any brand. I haven't seen a difference between the brands. So yeah, I think it makes total sense because you don't want your gas sitting there. And maybe sometimes springs later than you think, and it turns into a 6-month sit versus it's going to be 3 months, right? So that's my recommendation, Craig.
Yeah, very good. So definitely a yes on the fuel additive and a yes on changing the oil in the fall so it's all fresh and ready to go in the spring. OMAC from CadillacForums.com says, I occasionally drive my 1972 Lincoln Mark IV in the winter if no snow or salt is present. I don't know why a Lincoln driver is using the Cadillac Forum. That's a question for another day. But anyway, I keep all my cars on battery tenders. Do I have to do anything else? I keep the tire pressure at proper inflation and do regular maintenance as required. The car is in a climate-controlled garage.
Okay.
Sounds like they're doing a lot of things right there.
Yeah, I think you've got most of it. If you keep it on a tender, make sure the tires, I would say if you do drive it, I'm a big fan of keeping the gas tank as full as you possibly can with, like I said, ethanol-free fuel. So if you do drive it in the winter, maybe just hit the gas station on the way back to your garage. If you keep it full, I find it doesn't have space to collect moisture. And then just don't forget either, I've done this too. Like I said, a couple winters ago, it was an awesome February and I took it out. Took my Trans Am out, and then I forgot, oh yeah, that's right. now I need to put all those things back. We need to put the trickle charger back. I need to put the mouse repellent back. I need to put the, tarp underneath the car back. So just don't forget either, because that winter is weird. February I drove it, and then I didn't get it out again until like the end of April. So
I think especially Michigan winters, they come and go. There's a false spring that comes around.
Yes.
And you don't let it lure you, let your guard down.
Yes, exactly, Craig. So, but it sounds like, he's got everything he's got. Maybe just keep the fuel tank topped off.
Hot Rod 3234 from Try5.com asks, I'm storing my 55 Chevy in a heated garage. Do you recommend filling the tank and adding stable, which we just covered? Also, they're asking about a car cover or not, if you believe in doing that. This person also goes out there monthly to start and wipe the vehicle down. More than I do.
Yeah.
What do you recommend beyond any of that?
Yeah,
don't recommend.
No, I think I'm a fan of a car cover. It just helps a little bit if something falls on the car, if we brush up against it, just an added protection. I get this question quite a bit around, I'm not gonna do anything except to go start my car, once a month. I think it takes a lot longer than people think for the car to come up to temperature. And what I don't like about that is you're introducing water into the exhaust system. And you can let it run for an hour. It doesn't matter. You're still going to have water in the exhaust system when you turn it off. And if you're not driving it, I feel like it's hard to blow that water. Even if you're revving it, I don't care. It's really hard to get that water out of the exhaust system. It just, combustion. So I'm not a fan of actually doing this. I'm actually a fan of shutting it down, leaving it all winter, unless you're going to take it out for a drive. And I'm not a fan of just letting it run for like even an hour.
So just resist the temptation. Let the baby sleep.
Yes.
Don't wake it until it's time.
Yes.
We got another Lotus Talk user here, Bliss in Indy. This is a technical question. Wants to know whether the spark plug should be pulled and the cylinders fogged with oil. Also, what about tire and battery care, which we kind of covered already. But pulling the plugs, that seems a bit much to me.
I'm right there with you, Craig. I do it on my boat, but I've never done it on my cars. If you're going to have it sit for a year plus, then maybe that makes sense. But if we're talking 4 to 6 months, I think it's overkill. I know a friend of mine. He greases everything. He cleans the windshield wipers. He literally has a dielectric grease on all the side panels. That's like we talked about earlier, a Spectrum. It's not going to hurt, but I think it's a little overkill. I agree with you.
If the engine's running properly, there should be some sort of film of oil on those cylinder walls, so there's no need to pull the plugs and fog it with more oil to prevent rust or anything. There should already be a little bit, enough there at least. What else? We've got 658 Chevy from Chevelles.com. This one's not a question, but they talk about airing out old cars. This user had a 72 Cutlass, says it was driven in all different weather conditions over many years, and the car never rusted at all. Then they sold it to a family member that rarely drove the car, put a cover on it, and then it started to rust. So I guess the question is, did the rust come from the cover, or was that just the car finally got old enough to start rusting? What do you think, Bryant?
Yeah, I handled a lot of claims when I was in our claims team with cover problems. And again, I think it's the breathable covers. So people toss, plastic over these cars, and they put these, I think it's not meant for long-term storage. These car covers that are not breathable, right? Or permeable is the word I'm looking for. So yes, I think you have tons of problems with moisture in that. And I also kind of forgot earlier, besides the mouse repellents, I always like to put, just a little bit of baking soda or some sort of moisture absorber inside the car. They make packages as well that, come in luggage and all. Pretty much anything you buy on Amazon has these things in them, right? And so I buy a little bit of those.
The silica packs, don't eat them. It says don't eat them.
Yes, yeah, those are the ones I'm talking about.
Trust me, they taste terrible.
Not from experience, right, Craig?
I'm ashamed to say. I thought they were like a salad topping or something.
Yeah.
No. All right, next question. Simon P. Mike 56 from Bimmerfest.com. This person's got a 1998 M3. They're getting ready for storage here in wonderful Cleveland, Ohio, they say, putting her into a 20 by 10 storage unit. Besides disconnecting the battery and a good car cover, do you recommend anything else for storing a vehicle in sort of a storage unit like that?
Yeah, I think if, obviously, depending on, it doesn't say, is it heated or right? It doesn't say it's heated, right?
It doesn't, but I would hazard to bet it isn't.
Okay. Well, I think, just the simple things I would say from, soup to nuts would be toss some extra air in the tires, right? If you have access to electricity, like we talked about, put it in the Trickle charger. Make sure you've got a good car cover. And then those storage facilities tend to be really, really sometimes infested with mice and critters because there's just, so much stuff to attract them.
Yeah.
So I'd get like double the mouse repellent if you're putting it away in something like that. And then like kind of the other tips we've covered, just make sure there's nothing around it. Those storage facility, things tend to be a little bit more cramped because there tend to be like old luggage or old suitcases, couches. Mice love getting in all that stuff. So just make sure it's not surrounded by things like that. And otherwise, I think some of the other tips we've already kind of talked about and covered.
Or maybe you can break into the neighboring storage units, put the mouse traps and bird seed in those to draw the mice away from your car.
Yes, exactly right.
Write that down. That's a good idea. Don't get caught, though.
No,
that's
bad.
We don't want that. Yellow TR3, again, another try5.com user. It's not so much a question here as it is just a comment. They just say, move to California.
I hate people like this. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, but like half the forums you read, it's like, what are you talking about? I've never winterized my life. I live in South Florida. I live in Northern California, or like whatever it might be. It just,
what is winter?
Yeah, you know what you're doing when you say that, right?
Mm-hmm. But they still do you can get winter in those locations. But is there anything to be concerned about? Should you still be prepping? But I guess if you're driving the car most of the time, maybe it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, I know several people in California that the weather's awesome, but they just, for some reason or another, don't drive it for 3 months. So I think anytime you're going to put the car away for more than, 90 days, 2 months, I think it's great. Throw a Trickle charger on it at the very least, overinflate the tires a little bit. I think those are just two simple things. It takes like 5 minutes, and then you're not driving with dead. I really hate flat spots in my tires. It drives me crazy. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. I don't know why. I just don't like it. And I know they eventually go away. And it's not a big deal. Yeah, it's just annoying, right? So I don't think it hurts. Throw 5 psi in your tires in a Trickle charger, and that's easy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, my Ford has bias ply tires, so they're always flat spotted, it seems.
Yeah.
It likes to follow the lines in the road a little bit too much. But we've got Doug D at allpar.com. Should I pull any fuses? He talks about doing this to prevent battery drain. Also, that's something that's recommended in the owner's manual of his 2006 Ram 1500 truck. Apparently, if the vehicle is going to sit for more than 18 days, they recommend either pulling the battery or some fuses. I'm assuming to prevent, parasitic drain from like the clock or anything. What are your thoughts on pulling fuses?
I've never done that. I have disconnected the battery. I think if you don't have a Trickle charger, it's not a bad idea to disconnect the battery. I think we're going to stray way off here for a quick second, but if you have those new apps, especially for like brand new cars, Teslas come to mind or other EVs, but even just like everyday F-150s, and you can check and log in and check your cameras and, look at all the vehicle diagnosis, that drains your battery. So that is a problem. I know people, complain about that. They're like, go away and they're checking their apps. They go on vacation for like a month. How's my F-150 doing? I'm going to look at all the cameras around my Cybertruck. That will drain your battery. So I think disconnecting the battery, if you don't have a Trickle charger, is not a bad idea if you're going to put it in storage for, a couple months. So
yeah, but I mean, the easy and affordable solution is just get that Trickle charger, and then you've got literally nothing to worry about. No fuses to pull and lose, and worry about putting back in the right spot or not.
Yep,
no trouble there. 2011 Chrome Orange from LotusTalk.com. What do you recommend for after storage? And then also, what about air conditioning prep when you put the vehicle away? Should you run the AC occasionally to keep the seals and compressor lubricated?
Yeah, that's a great question that people forget about, including myself. I would say in the spring, obviously you're so excited to go drive the car. I have a physical checklist that I keep literally like right close to the car. Sometimes I forget, I have a Trickle charger and I'm almost backed off with it plugged in.
All right, pulling the cord along.
Yes. So I have a checklist in the spring, like check your tire pressure. Brake fluid is huge. One of our biggest claims at Hagerty is people pulling out of their car and their brakes fail and they drive down their driveway and across into the neighbor's lawn. And so pump those brakes, check your brake fluid, give it a little, before you get it down the driveway, make sure the brakes are working. I think that is probably number one. Number two is, on the air compressor. I'm a big fan of using all the stuff that your car has with it. I don't like stuff sitting there and not being used. So I would turn the AC on for sure. get all that flowing, get all the lubrication of all the whole AC systems moving. Depending on how new your car is, it really matters. Some older cars, it's not so much. But yeah, I'm a fan of trying all that stuff. And in the spring, the biggest thing is tires. Make sure you're that's another thing I did this spring. My mouse repellent on my engine block. Almost forgot that. That would be bad. That would catch on fire.
You backed out with the Trickle charger hooked up. There was a fire hazard from the wood chip mouse repellent, and you didn't pump the brakes. You ended up in the neighbor's garage inadvertently. That's a bad spring.
It's a very bad spring.
The brakes is a very good one. Make sure that you pump that pedal to ensure you're going to be able to stop once you put the car in gear. And also, brake fluid is hydroscopic, I believe. It absorbs moisture over time, and a lot of people don't change their brake fluid nearly as often as they should. So you get moisture in there, parts rust, the moisture can boil if you're driving the car hard. It's a whole lot of not good. So that's my tip. Change your brake fluid.
That's a good one, Craig. I was just talking about that. Most manufacturers actually recommend like every 3 years, which I actually was surprised how that's actually fast. I didn't realize that, so.
Yeah, it's nobody does it, and I hate doing it, so I don't do it either, but I should. Next up, we got Par Shooter from Hellcat.org. I've heard to overinflate the tires if not driving for a period of time. Is this true? And of course, what pressure? This person says 50 PSI. I mean, you're going to have to go by the sidewall of the tire or the manufacturer recommendation, but
50 PSI seems a lot. I try to do. So my Porsche is like 35. I do like 42. I go like 5 to 7, maybe 10 if you're in a truck. But 50, I don't know. Maybe I don't know what kind of car that is, but that seems high. Yeah, you don't want a tire blow up in your face. So I say 5 to 7. And just remember though, when you take it out, make sure that you take that out. You don't want to drive it with 5 to 7 over. That would be bad. So take that.
That would be dangerous.
Yeah.
Yes. And then the last question here is from Rod F69 at the VintageMustang.com forums. This guy's asking, should you jack the car up to take the pressure off the tires? That would be an alternative, I assume, to just pumping them up with more pressure. But
yeah, I've seen people do that. If you have the space and you have the ability, I think it would take the pressure off the tires. I think that's more for me like a long term. Like you're going to be gone for like a year, 2 year type of thing. But maybe Craig, you should try it. Like sounds like your tires are flat spotted all the time. Maybe that might help you. I don't know.
Made that way, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, jacking the car up is certainly, I would say, a good solution, but that's a lot more work than just pumping a few more pounds of air in the tires, right?
Yeah.
Really quick, we talked about gasoline additives. Do you recommend running any different types of fuel for the winter? Maybe the ethanol-free if possible. What about premium gas versus regular? Any difference there?
Yeah, I think definitely the ethanol-free. I believe in that. We've done some studies at Hagerty about what ethanol does over time. And like you were talking about with brake fluid, ethanol grabs water. And so I think the marine side of the hobby is way more advanced than this, right? So most of the marinas only have ethanol-free fuel. You do not want ethanol in a boat. And so I think that is the same for what we're talking about here for our cars, right? So I would say ethanol-free, and then I would follow the manufacturer's recommendation. I always put premium and the highest premium I can get, but that's just a cool thing. I don't know if I need to do that, but I do that. So
yeah, my flathead V8 has about 6-to-1 compression, so
yeah, don't do that. Yeah,
it's a waste of time. But yeah, that was the last of the forum user submitted questions. But I've got one more for you, Bryant, and that's if you had to distill all of this into like 3 to 5 tips that are easy for people to remember, what would those be?
Yeah, I think don't go crazy. You can go crazy in the fall. You can do all kinds of stuff. But I would say my tips would be simply overinflate your tires, maybe drive it up on some cardboard. It's worth your time to put a plastic sheet underneath the car. I think that's definitely worth your time. Mouse repellent, don't put mouse traps. A Trickle charger, not a battery charger. Maintainer. And then a car cover that's breathable. I think those, it's not big. We're talking 20 minutes of prep. But I do say too, like the one thing that takes some time, I do think the oil change makes sense. I really do. I think that makes sense to get all that out. And you can go extremes. Like I said, you can go and do all the spark plugs and change the air cleaner or the air filter. I'd say 2 other quick things that I've seen a lot of, and I know we're talking about car care, but this is on the insurance side, and I have to throw it in being at Hagerty. If you're calling your agent to remove coverage in the fall, you have the wrong coverage. You're not in a collector policy. All the collector policies are year round, and the danger of that is majority of our claims actually happen in the garage. So if you run your car accident, or if you run your lawnmower into your car by accident, or what happened to me a couple winters ago, my wife accidentally pulled in, hit the car. That's technically a collision. If you remove collision in the fall and the winter, you don't have coverage for that. And so just make sure if you're one of those people that's calling and removing, you're probably on the wrong policy. It's not the right policy for you. And then number 2, for the collector car specific policy, there's a lot of companies out there. The vermin, which is mice chewing your wires and getting into your seats, is not covered. Hagerty has coverage, and that's massive. That's a huge claim in the spring. It's thousands and thousands of dollars if you get these mice infestations and chewing your electrical. So I'd say look at 2 things. If you're calling to remove coverage, you have the wrong insurance. And if you're within a collector car company, make sure that the vermin exclusion is not there. You want vermin coverage, and Hagerty offers both of those things. So a little plug for Hagerty and the type of coverage we provide. So,
absolutely, that's a fantastic tip right there. The vermin coverage, especially. In fact, I just helped a buddy. They've got a 1950 DeSoto, in good shape, drivable, needed new wiring because the car's 70 plus years old, right? And it was just crumbling and falling apart in a massive fire hazard. You don't want to replace wiring if you don't have to. So get the coverage that takes care of that so you're not out there digging through the car, because some parts of it were okay, but getting up under the dashboard was not easy or fun.
There we go.
I don't recommend it.
Yeah, there you go, Craig. But yeah, no, Craig, this has been fun. I'm super glad that we could do this together, and hopefully some of these tips help people. And I think this is an outstanding time of year. We're putting away cars right now to talk about this. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bryant. And there you go, a few simple tips and tricks to help you successfully store your vehicle over the winter months so it will start and perform its best during the next driving season. And if you like this video, please leave a comment below and tell us what sort of topics you'd like us to tackle in the future.